For Lab 3, we'll be learning how to use the normal distribution calculator. We'll click Stat, Calculators, and Normal. The normal distribution calculator offers two options, the standard option and the between option. The standard option allows you to enter a single boundary value and a direction and receive the area to the left or to the right of a single boundary value. The between option allows you to specify two boundary values and it calculates the area between those two boundary values under the curve. We'll start with the standard option. The next thing you need to know is the mean and standard deviation protocol. This particular calculator is defaulted to the variable x. So what you need to know is that when you see a variable of z, it means the standard normal distribution, which clarifies that the mean and the standard deviation need to be 0 and 1. So the variable z indicates a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. A variable of x is a generic variable that allows you to specify any mean and standard deviation as indicated in the problems in the textbook. The next thing we'll do is we'll learn how to use the boundary value, the area, and the directional fields. The first thing we'd like to do is calculate using a specified boundary value, and we'll receive back the area. So we'll clarify the direction. Let's use the less than or equal to direction, which will calculate to the left of the boundary value. Let's calculate the area to the left of the boundary value 0.5 first. I can hit enter after entering here or click compute. So I notice that the area under the curve to the left of the boundary 0.5 is 0.69 approximately. Next, let's compute the area to the right of the boundary value 0.27. And I get an area of 0.39 approximately to the right of the specified boundary value. I can also specify an area and a direction and have the calculator compute the boundary value. What I'd like to know is the boundary value that cuts off an area of 0.05 to the left. So the boundary value of negative 1.64 cuts off an area of 0.05. A couple of additional things to note is that the boundary directional options here do not include strict inequality. Because this is a continuous distribution, less than would be equivalent to less than or equal. You do not need to clarify between those two options. Greater than would also be equivalent to greater than or equal. Another thing to note here is that this calculator is formatted to calculate probability. That's what this P means. But keep in mind that the probability is equal to the area under the curve. The next thing we'll talk about is using the between option. When we clarify a mean and standard deviation other than 0 and 1, let's for example use a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 12. In the between option, we'll need to specify a left and a right boundary and compute the middle area between the two boundaries. Let's clarify a left boundary of 91 and a right boundary of 102 and compute. And notice the area between those two values would be 0.3395, etc. I can also specify an area, and I will be given the boundary values that bound a middle area equivalent to that specified. So let's specify 0.5 as my area and compute, and you'll notice that I am given now the left and the right boundary values that cut out a middle area of 0.5. You'll also notice this option here, the 68, 95, 99.7 tick marks are corresponding to the empirical rule tick marks. If I click that, it changes the tick marks to cut off exactly 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations in both directions. That's a toggle switch. You can turn that on and off. Remember to save your result after each calculation so that you have all of your results saved in order to attach to your lab report.